I've always felt that, I've been a leader on the pitch. It was a great honour for me to be named captain at the beginning of last season, and something I was immensely proud of.
You mentioned that sort of leadership angle that you had followed from being a young player. Is that something that came naturally to you?
Yeah, well, I think I've always been quite vocal on the pitch and in the dressing room, and sort of knowing what players' mentality is like and which players, you need, you to have a go at them really to get the best out of them, or which players need the arm around them, and I think that's something you learn over the years.
Some of your early captains, Kevin Campbell, Duncan Ferguson, Roy Keane. Now, to the outsider, they're fairly uncompromising men who played in a certain style and led by example. What do you remember about what you learnt from them as captains, and how did they treat you as that maybe a young player coming through? Yeah,
well, I was always, as I say, I was quite vocal, and the good thing about them, they were always, they weren't the older players or the captain who, just said their piece and that was it. They always, you always had your own voice.
Were you nervous when you got the captaincy?
No, not at all. I think I've done it. I'd done it before I was England captain. I'd done it for England and done it for Manchester United before, and it was something which I wanted to do and believed I'd be successful at doing.
Last season, the West Ham game at home when you were sent off, obviously a very disappointing moment for you as a player. But did it have a different impact on you because you were the captain?
I felt to let myself down. Actually, I tried to take a yellow card. It's one of them which happens in football. Unfortunately, I caught Stuart down. I caught him a bit too high, and I felt to let myself and my teammates down. Which, whether I'm captain or not, that when you leave your team with 10 men, then you always feel like you're leaving your team in a difficult situation.
I think there are 2 players left from the team that won the Champions League in Moscow now, you and Michael Carrick. Has that had any effect on you, perhaps to the way that you approached the game maybe 5 or 7 years ago, now that you are that senior player?
Yeah and no, really. I think the way you prepare and approach games, for me it's been the same, since I was a young lad really, and since I broke into professional football. But in terms of, how you see the game, I think obviously you've matured a lot, you've gained a lot of experience. I wear the armband, but there's different captains in the team in different ways. You've got Michael Carrick, who is more of a calming influence with the players, and Ashley Young, who's someone who gets on really well with all the players. So although I've got the title as captain, there's you need a few leaders on the pitch.
Can you characterise how he comes across as a captain to the rest of the team?
He's been fantastic for years and years, and since he's taken the captaincy, he's been brilliant. He's a leader always on the pitch. He's even before he got the captaincy, he plays with his heart on his sleeve. He puts in 110% every time he goes into training, every time he goes into the games, and he's been a fantastic leader since he's taken the captaincy, and I'm delighted to have him as a captain.
What do you say to those younger players in order to help them settle in and to the first team environment? And are there things that you learnt when you were coming through as a teenager which have stood you in good stead for that advice as you pass it on?
I think the best thing what's happened for the younger players is the lads who are on tour with us, they've been in the first team dressing room for a long time now, and that's certainly being around the players, training with the players every day. They're all first team players, and they mightn't play every week, but they're part of our squad, the first team player, and a good addition to the squad really. And I think we see the youth team players from 16 up until first team level. We see them every day at lunchtime, or you see them in the gym, you chat with them. So it's that really eases the pathway really for the younger players to come into the first team. Where, for instance, when I was at Everton, the youth team trained at a different training ground, and it was literally, if you get in the first team squad, you change training grounds and you just turn in with the first team. So it was a bit more difficult there.
I mean, it seems as though that's something that's very important at the club, that at the youth level they kind of train the same way and they become assimilated with the first team players. Obviously, I'm sure you agree that that's beneficial. And when they get into that situation, you mentioned already about encouraging them to have their own voice. Is that something that you've seen since you've taken over as captain from some of the younger players, that they are keen to speak up and kind of make themselves heard?
Yeah, well, I think you have to really. I think when I first broke through, I was 16 and I was vocal then. You know, I've never been one to sit in the corner and if I felt something then I'd speak it. Which obviously different players have different characters and so I think it's important that if the younger players, you know, want to speak up, then it's important that they can do that. And to be honest, the players they do speak to a good bunch of lads, and you know, they're certainly not in awe of, you know, some of the senior players in the squad.
Everyone from Beckham to Vidic to Terry to Giggs, they're perhaps different styles of leaders, and you say that there are things that you've learnt from all of them. But are there any other captains that you think you could single out as being having a particular influence on you, that perhaps you had taken what they did and used in the way that you captain the side now?
Probably Steven Gerrard is the one you look at. You know, you've seen many times where he's dragged Liverpool and England in difficult situations. He's you know, being the leader on the pitch for the players, and then off the pitch you look at Gary Neville, who's was fantastic for the players off the pitch, and you know, made sure everything was organised and sorted out for the players, which you needed. So, and then you know, all the other lads like, you know, David Beckham and Nemanja Vidic, in their own ways, were great captains too.
In that England environment, you've been successful since the World Cup. European Championship qualifying's going well. It seems like a pretty happy camp at the moment, with kind of aspirations going forward towards the European Championships.
It's a very young squad, and it's we're doing well. We're unbeaten since the World Cup, and we're playing some good football, a lot of energy. So at the minute it's going well. So we need to obviously improve, keep working hard, keep pushing forward, and you know, 3 more points we'll have qualified, and then we can focus on different ways. The manager can focus on different players if he wants to look at them, and to get us prepared for the European Championships.